Chris Bowe, how would the Lakers solve their constant miscommunication on defense? I think part of it's a reps thing where once you get a certain number of reps with a group, that starts to work itself out. I think LeBron being the captain of the defense, you guys know where I'm at with the starting group and what I think it should be. But if you want to make the argument to stagger LeBron and Marcus from a defensive communication perspective, you could argue that like LeBron is the quarterback of the defense with the starters and Marcus is the quarterback of the defense with the bench units because of how vocal those guys are and calling out coverages and alignments and whatnot. But in terms of solving it, like I think everybody has to take accountability and be more aggressive in their switching. I think you saw a real shift in that second half in terms of them going from soft switching to harder switching and pushing up against ball handlers and forcing them to be on their heels rather than vice versa. And I think it's really just going to be film work, guys taking accountability, guys really owning that and making it a point of emphasis to do it. Because I think naturally that's not the strength of that starting group and not the strength of a lot of the players in the rotation. I've talked about this before. There are a more quiet group. They're a more introverted group. And JJ has talked about, I think when they're at their worst, they're not communicating out there. So that's not necessarily a strength of this group. And I think LeBron will obviously help in that regard. And I think we already saw some of that in the Utah game. And then Marcus is the other guy who's constantly harping on guys. But I think it's a combination of reps, accountability, film work, and the coaching staff and players really making it a point of emphasis and continuing to drill it down. And if I'm JJ, I think that's something you have to be hitting on every single game plan. And he's talked about this where sometimes during the course of a season, you focus on certain things and then you turn your attention away from something else that you had previously focused on. And then your team improves in one aspect, but then they slip in another aspect. I think this is an aspect they have to harp on because the only way this group is going to actualize its potential in the defensive end, which to me is maybe like the 12th best defense in the NBA, is going to be everybody being on a string, everybody communicating, everybody being in sync defensively. And that has to start with, again, film work, continually harping on it on practice and in your pregame meetings and guys really making this a big point of emphasis because there are some defenses that you could just throw out like OKC, you could just throw out there and they have the athletes, they have the speed, they have the size, that they have all that defensively where it almost doesn't matter what they're doing. They could play zone, they could press full court, like they could go about it a variety of ways where they're gonna be fine sort of regardless. The Lakers need to be a very detail oriented defense. I do not think they've been that consistently up to this point in the season. I think that's the big thing now that everybody's healthy, now that the starters are back. That's my focus because the offense is going to be better. We saw like LeBron basically played in a preseason game for LA. That was his first game as a Laker. And they put up 140. They put up a season high. And yes, part of it is Utah. They're not a good defensive team. Teams light them up. But still, you saw the impact LeBron had. You saw the way that the offense functioned. The key is going to be the defensive end. That is going to determine the Lakers' ceiling this season, as I've continually said since the offseason. And I think that needs to be the point of emphasis.